When it comes to fishing baits, we've probably never had a wider selection to use on our hook. But today, I'm going to show you how to use a real old school favourite. In fact, there isn't any older bait out there, and that is the humble worm. Now, as you can see, we've got a good amount of really lively bait here, dendrobinas and the odd lobworm, and these are brilliant. They're also free, of course, if you've got a compost heap, but all fish like them. Now, you can use a worm on its own or in conjunction with other baits, but actually to get the most from them, a really good tactic is to fish chop worm. In other words, get some scissors for a few and chop them up so they release a lovely bit of scent into the swim, which is hopefully going to draw the fish into where we are. Now, there's all kinds of ways you can fish the worms, but actually the most accurate is through a pole cup. Doesn't mean you can't throw them in or use them in a feeder, but I like to chop about a dozen to start with to different size pieces, and we're just going to dump this in the swim in a second. I've fed 2 areas of my swim. Now, the temptation is to just dive in and have a look immediately, but actually with chopped worm it's better to leave the fish a bit of time to root around and get their confidence up, so I'm going to give it at least half an hour. But in the meantime I can show you how I hook these worms in the first place. As you can see from the state of my fingers, it's not a job for the faint-hearted, but what I've done is broken a dendrobina in half, hooked both of the ends, and then you'll also notice I've also put a dead red maggot on the end, and that's just to stop the worm folding over the hook point. And our rig really is incredibly simple. It's a pole float with a really nice thick tip, and that's because it's quite a big lively bait, and we may even want to fish it off the bottom. So I've got 1/2 gram Tyson float there, which I've picked for a nice thick visible tip. You don't have to fish worms too light, and in fact the bites tend to be really nice and positive. One really useful tip when you're worm fishing is not just to sit there on your hands, but keep agitating the bait and doing something. So you'll see I keep lifting and dropping it. No more than 5 or 6 inches, but that little bit of movement quite often earns you an extra bite. And you'll often find that the fish bites immediately after you've given a little lift and let the bait settle again. Again, it's no perch, but it just shows what a range of species you can catch on this method, because it's a rather nice bonus in the form of a rudd there. All welcome as far as I'm concerned. We've had no shortage of bites so far. Most of them have been nice hand-sized skimmers actually, but no perch. So because there are quite a few fish seeming to be in the peg, what I'm going to do is just keep adding a few worms here to my pot. So 6 or so at a time. Choppy, just keep that scent going into the water. I've got something better here, but it is I can't paint stripes on it and call it a perch, I'm afraid. It is I tell you what, it's a still fish well worth catching, and it shows the stamp of fish you can get on this chopped worm. Actually scaled the hook bait up a little bit in the hope of something bigger, and it's worked, because that's get it, whoops. One very slimy and not best pleased bream, but yeah. We're just about losing the light here. The bizarre thing is we've had no perch still, but can't really grumble too much because the worm has taken a really nice stamp of fish. And that's, I even had a little tench a few minutes ago, but that's a really lovely, yeah, can't grumble at fish like that. It just goes to show everything likes the worm. And the bizarre thing is, we haven't caught a single perch today, but must have had 10 odd pounds of skimmers, roach, rudd, even a little tench. Yeah, really good day's sport for well, for a bait budget of nothing basically, other than a pinch of ground bait. Yeah, well worth giving the worm a try today.